Hello there and welcome to the Dreamy Ocean Channel. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Maybe you've been thinking about the ocean, about all the things we've never seen drifting in the dark. Or maybe you just need somewhere soft to rest your mind before sleep finds you. Either way, this is your place. A quiet corner where curiosity meets calm. Tonight, we're descending into the deep sea. Not with bright lights or loud machinery, but slowly, gently, the way a thought drifts downward before you close your eyes. We're going to explore something remarkable, something that changes the way you see the underwater world. Because photographs lie, not intentionally, but quietly in the absence of scale. When you see an image of a creature from the abyss, there's usually nothing beside it. No ruler, no familiar object, no way to know if what you're looking at is the size of your thumb or the size of a school bus. The deep sea hides its dimensions as carefully as it hides its light. And that means we've been underestimating its inhabitants for longer than you might think. 3-meter tube worms standing like crimson forests in the dark. Spider crabs with leg spans stretching 4 meters from tip to tip. Squid longer than a city bus drifting through pressures that would crush steel. These aren't exaggerations. They're measurements verified and documented from a world we're only beginning to understand. If you find these quiet explorations soothing, if this kind of peaceful learning helps you drift towards sleep, consider tapping the like button and subscribing to the channel. It helps others find their way here too. One calm soul at a time. But for now, just settle in. Let the weight of the day dissolve. Let your breathing slow. And let's begin this gentle descent together into the strange and beautiful dimensions of the deep. The illusion of scale in the abyss. There's something peculiar about looking at photographs of deep-sea life. You see a creature strange and otherworldly floating in darkness or clinging to volcanic stone. Your mind tries to place it to give it context to understand its size. But there's nothing to compare it to. No hand nearby, no coin for scale, no familiar landmark to anchor your perception. This is not an accident. It's the nature of the deep itself. In most habitats, we have built-in references. A bird next to a branch tells us how large that bird is. A fish beside a reef shows us its dimensions. But in the lightless depths beyond 200 meters, beyond 500, beyond 1,000, there are no trees, no rocks we recognize, no measurements we can borrow from memory, just darkness, pressure, and cold. And creatures who have evolved not to be seen at all except by the faint glow of bioluminescence or the harsh, artificial lights of a submersible passing through. This absence of scale creates a psychological blind spot. Our brains wired for terrestrial life try to fill in the gaps, and more often than not, they underestimate. We imagine these animals as small because they look delicate. We assume fragility means tiny. We forget that some of the most enormous things on Earth are soft, boneless, and weightless in water. Consider the photographs from early deep-sea expeditions. Drawings made by scientists in the 1800s often showed bizarre creatures, but the scale was guessed invented or simply left blank. A squid might be sketched at 1 foot when the actual specimen was 10. A worm colony might be illustrated as finger length when it towered taller than a person. These weren't lies. They were the best interpretations available without modern tools, without video, without lasers that measure distance in real time. Even today, with remotely operated vehicles equipped with high-definition cameras, scale can deceive. A camera zooms in on a delicate jellyfish, its bell pulsing gently. Beautiful, ethereal, small perhaps. But then the camera pans and suddenly you see it's not alone. Around it, scattered like snowflakes, are hundreds of smaller jellies, and you realize the first one isn't small at all. Its bell is wider than a dinner table. You were simply fooled by the uniformity of the environment, by the lack of anything familiar to give you a clue. This illusion extends to how we talk about these animals. We call them creatures of the deep, as though depth itself shrinks things, as though living under pressure means being compressed, minimized. But the opposite is often true. The deep sea is home to some of the largest invertebrates, the longest fish, the most massive colonies of life ever recorded on Earth. They grow large not despite the environment, but because of it. Cold water slows metabolism, which allows for longer lifespans and larger body sizes. The absence of predators in many regions means there's less evolutionary pressure to stay small and hidden. Food is scarce, yes, but when it arrives, it can be stored in layers of fat or muscle that would never fit in a shallow reef. The deep is not a place of miniatures. It is a gallery of giants painted in hues we can barely imagine and dimensions we struggle to comprehend. Photographs also strip away motion, and motion often reveals size. A video of a giant squid swimming shows not just its length, but its power, the way its tentacles trail behind like ribbons in slow motion, the sheer volume of water it displaces. A still image might make it look graceful, even small, but motion brings weight. It brings truth. Then there's the issue of perspective. When a camera is mounted on a submersible descending through open water, there's no foreground, no background. Everything exists in a kind of suspended nowhere. An animal 5 meters away might look the same as one 50 meters away because the water itself is so dark, so uniform, that distance becomes meaningless. Even laser scaling systems which project dots of known distance onto subjects are sometimes difficult to interpret when the subject is moving translucent or partially obscured. But perhaps the most profound reason we underestimate deep sea sizes is cultural. We're used to thinking of the ocean's surface as the main event. Whales breach there, dolphins leap, coral reefs bloom in sunlit shallows. That's where the abundance is, where the color lives, where humans can visit without elaborate machinery. The deep, by contrast, has long been imagined as a barren wasteland, a place where only the smallest, strangest survivors cling to existence. This image is outdated. Recent discoveries have revealed ecosystems of astonishing richness in the abyss. Hydrothermal vents support forests of giant tube worms. Cold seeps host clams the size of dinner plates. Whale falls become entire kingdoms of scavengers, some of which grow nowhere else on Earth. The deep is not empty. It's simply invisible to us, and in that invisibility, it has hidden its scale. Even scientists trained to measure and document are routinely surprised. A marine biologist I once read about described the first time she saw a living giant squid on camera. She knew the measurements. She'd studied the species for years. But seeing it move, seeing it hunt, seeing its eye as large as a human head, track the camera, she felt her understanding shift. Numbers are one thing. Presence is another. The human brain evolved to understand terrestrial scales. We're built to estimate the size of a deer in a forest, a bird in a tree, a fish in a stream. But we have no evolutionary reference for a creature suspended in three-dimensional space with no landmarks, no shadows, and no familiar context. This is why when deep-sea explorers first began returning with specimens, museums struggled to display them properly. How do you show the public what 3 meters long means when the creature is soft, translucent, and usually photographed against featureless black water? Early naturalists tried sketching the creatures next to human figures for scale, but even then the drawings looked fantastical, unbelievable. A tube worm as tall as a person, impossible. A crab with legs spanning the width of a doorway. Surely an exaggeration. A jellyfish with tentacles longer than a classroom must be artistic license, but it wasn't. It was reality struggling to fit into human comprehension. There's also the phenomenon of size constancy, a psychological principle where our brains automatically adjust perceived size, based on assumed distance. In the deep sea, where there are no visual cues for distance, this system breaks down entirely. A giant squid 10 meters away might look the same size as a small fish 1 meter away. Our brains have no way to calibrate, no landmarks to anchor perception. Photographers and filmmakers working in the deep have learned to include scale references whenever possible. Laser dots projected onto specimens, ROV arms visible in frame rulers placed beside organisms. But even with these tools, the images still feel surreal. A 30-centimeter scale bar next to a 50-centimeter isopod doesn't look right. Our brains reject it. It must be a trick of perspective, we think. A manipulation. But it's not. The deep sea really is home to animals that violate our expectations at every turn. Consider also the role of lighting. In the abyss, there is no ambient light below about 1,000 meters. Everything is illuminated artificially by submersible lights that create harsh shadows and flatten depth perception. This makes organisms look two-dimensional, like images on a screen, rather than living three-dimensional beings. A giant amphipod under these lights might look like a drawing, not a real creature with mass, volume, and presence. And then there's the way water refracts light, making objects appear closer and larger than they actually are when viewed through a camera lens underwater. But paradoxically, the lack of atmospheric haze in deep water can make distant objects appear sharp and clear, fooling us into thinking they're closer and therefore smaller than they truly are. It's a double illusion operating in opposite directions, leaving our perceptions completely unmoored. Even experienced deep-sea researchers admit to moments of disorientation. A biologist who has studied giant squid for decades once described watching live footage for the first time and feeling shocked despite knowing the measurements, despite understanding the scale. Seeing it move, seeing it hunt, seeing it exist in space rather than on a dissection table changed everything. Knowledge is one thing. Visceral understanding is another. And that's what we're here to explore tonight. Not just the numbers, though, we'll share those. But the feeling of discovering that what you thought was small is actually vast. That what seemed delicate is powerful. That the deep sea, far from being a place of diminishment, is a theatre of enormity playing out in near total darkness witnessed by almost no one. We'll move slowly through this journey, pausing to let each revelation settle. Because rushing through a list of sizes would miss the point entirely. The point is to shift your perspective, to recalibrate your sense of what's possible, to invite you into a world where the rules are different and the outcomes astonishing. So, as we move through this exploration, as we visit each creature in turn, try to hold that sense of scale in your mind. Picture yourself beside them. Imagine the cold water pressing against your skin. The pressure squeezing gently but firmly from all sides. Imagine the silence broken only by the distant creaks and pings of the deep. Imagine floating there, weightless, while something the length of a bus drifts past you in the gloom. Its body glowing faintly with its own light, its tentacles trailing behind like ribbons in an unseen current. These are not monsters. They're just animals doing what they've always done, what they've evolved to do over millions of years. But they are large. So much larger than most of us have ever imagined. Larger than the photographs suggest, larger than the descriptions convey, larger than our terrestrial trained minds want to accept. And tonight, We're going to correct that misunderstanding gently, one fact at a time, one creature at a time, letting the truth of their size sink in. Slowly, the way marine snow settles through the water column, drifting down, down, down into the abyss. Giant invertebrates, worms, jellies, and siphonophores. Let's begin with something that doesn't even look like it should be possible. A worm taller than most humans standing in rigid white tubes on the floor of the Pacific Ocean. No eyes, no mouth, no digestive system at all, and yet alive, growing, thriving in water hot enough to scald skin. The giant tube worm Riftia pachyptila can reach lengths of up to 3 meters. That's nearly 10 feet tall. Picture standing beside one. Its white chitinous tube, tough as plastic, rises like a pillar. And from the top, where you'd expect a head, blooms a crimson plume, brilliant red, feathery and delicate. This plume is not decoration. It's a gill and organ for exchanging gases with the water. Oxygen in carbon dioxide out. Hydrogen sulfide, toxic, to almost everything absorbed and transported to the bacteria living inside the worm's body. Because that's how Riftia survives. It doesn't eat, it farms. Inside a special organ called the trophosome, billions of chemosynthetic bacteria convert the sulfur from volcanic vents into organic molecules the worm can use. It's a partnership ancient and elegant, evolved over millions of years at the edges of volcanic rifts where Earth's crust splits apart and magma wells up from below. This relationship is what allows these worms to live in one of the most hostile environments on Earth. The water around hydrothermal vents can reach temperatures of 400 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt. Lead, though the worms themselves live just outside the hottest zones where temperatures are more moderate, around 20 to 30 degrees. The water is rich in hydrogen sulfide, a compound that's toxic to most life, the same chemical that gives rotten eggs their smell. But for Riftia, it's food. Or rather, it's food for the bacteria, which in turn feed the worm. 3 meters. When you see a photograph of a hydrothermal vent community, the worms often look like decorations, like strange coral or small plants clustered around the black smoker chimneys. But they're not. They're as tall as a basketball hoop. They sway gently in the current, their red plumes expanding and contracting with each pulse of water. And around them, in the heated water, crabs scuttle across the tubes. Fish hover in the thermal gradients, and entire ecosystems pulse with life that exists nowhere else on Earth. These worms grow fast too. Some of the fastest growing invertebrates ever recorded adding as much as 85 centimeters per year under optimal conditions. That's almost 3 feet in a single year. In a world where food is abundant, where there's no seasonal variation, where the vents provide a constant supply of chemical energy, they can colonize a new vent site and reach reproductive size in just a couple of years. They may live for 100 to 300 years based on radiocarbon dating and growth rate estimates standing in the same place for centuries, filtering the water, supporting the bacteria, and quietly reshaping our understanding of what life needs to survive. What's particularly fascinating is that Riftia has no digestive system at all. No mouth, no stomach, no intestines. As larvae, they have a functional mouth and gut feeding on particles in the water column like any other marine invertebrate. But as they mature and settle onto a vent, they metamorphose, losing their digestive tract entirely and becoming entirely dependent on their bacterial symbionts. It's a transformation so complete that the adult worm is in essence a living greenhouse for bacteria, a mobile chemical factory powered by volcanic energy. Now let's drift higher in the water column and meet something even stranger. Not a single organism at all, but a colony. a living necklace made of thousands of identical clones strung together in a spiral that stretches farther than almost anything else alive. In March 2020, off the coast of Western Australia, researchers exploring the Ningaloo Canyons spotted something extraordinary. Using a remotely operated vehicle at a depth of about 630 meters, they filmed a giant siphonophore of the genus Apolemia. And when they measured it using lasers, they realized it was approximately 46 meters long. Some reports suggested it could be even longer, possibly up to 47 or 48 meters, making it potentially the longest animal ever recorded. 46 meters. That's longer than a blue whale. It's longer than most dinosaurs ever reached. It's longer than some buildings are tall. And yet, when you watch the footage, it looks delicate, almost ethereal, spiraling through the water, like a living piece of jewelry glowing faintly in the lights of the ROV. It's a creature made of creatures, each tiny zooid, specialized for a specific function. Some are built for swimming, pulsing like tiny jellyfish, to create movement and maintain the spiral shape. Others are feeders trailing long, stinging tentacles to capture prey, small fish crustaceans, anything that brushes against the nematocyst-laden arms. Still others are reproductive units budding off new zooids to extend the colony, or creating gametes for sexual reproduction. Together, they form a single hunting organism spiraling through the water in a slow, hypnotic circle, glowing faintly in the dark. Siphonophores are related to jellyfish, and like jellyfish, they hunt using stinging cells called nematocysts. When a small fish or crustacean brushes against one of the tentacles, the nematocyst fires in milliseconds, faster than the blink of an eye, injecting toxin and paralysis. The prey is drawn inward, passed from zooid to zooid, digested, and the nutrients are shared across the entire colony through a connected gastrovascular system. It's a body with no brain, no central nervous system, and yet it hunts with precision, moves with purpose, and survives in one of the most nutrient-poor environments on the planet. The researchers who discovered this particular specimen described it as being in a strange UFO-like feeding posture. Hovering in place, its outer ring spread wide like a net, creating a curtain of stinging tentacles that small prey might swim into unknowingly. They estimated it could be hundreds of years old given the slow growth rates typical of deep-sea organisms in cold water. Imagine something alive today that was born before the Industrial Revolution, before cars, before electricity. Drifting, growing, hunting, invisible to almost everyone except a handful of scientists operating robots thousands of meters below the surface. Siphonophores like this are fragile. If brought to the surface, they disintegrate their delicate tissues, bursting under the reduced pressure. Even touching them underwater can cause parts to break away. And yet, they persist, floating through the abyss in spirals of light and hunger. Longer than the longest whales, more patient than anything we know. Let's stay with gelatinous life for a moment longer and visit the lion's mane, jellyfish Cyanea capillata. While not a deep-sea specialist, this jellyfish is worth mentioning because its tentacles can trail more than 30 meters behind its bell. The bell itself, the main body, can grow to over 2 meters in diameter. But it's the tentacles that create the true scale, drifting in curtains through cold northern waters, stinging anything that wanders too close. Imagine swimming in dark water and brushing against something soft. You look, and there's nothing visible. But then you feel it again and again, and you realize you're surrounded by invisible threads, each one capable of delivering a painful sting. That's the lion's mane, a creature that fills more space than almost any other jellyfish on Earth, and yet remains nearly invisible until it's too late. These jellyfish are seasonal migrants appearing in huge blooms during certain times of the year. Fishermen have reported nets full of them, their tentacles tangled into masses that have to be cut free. Divers avoid areas where they're known to gather. And all the while, photographs of them often show just the bell glowing and beautiful, with no indication of the forest of stinging arms that hangs beneath. Then there are deep-sea anemones, which most people imagine as small, colourful polyps clinging to rocks. But some species in the abyss grow to extraordinary sizes. Certain anemones found near hydrothermal vents have columns thick as tree trunks and tentacles that spread more than a metre across. They anchor to the seafloor and wait, tentacles swaying, capturing anything that drifts past. Shrimp, small fish, organic debris from above. They are patient hunters rooted in place, living for decades, possibly centuries in water that never sees the sun. And finally, let's visit one more gelatinous giant, Priadubia, another species of siphonophore, which can grow to lengths of 50 meters. That's 160 feet, longer than most buildings are tall. This species is bioluminescent, glowing with bright blue light to attract prey. When it finds a region rich in food, it stops swimming and deploys a curtain of tentacles, hanging motionless in the water like a living net. Anything that bumps into the tentacles is stung, paralyzed, and consumed. Priadubia is thin, almost as thin as a broomstick, but its length is staggering. Like other siphonophores, it's made of zooids, each one a tiny biological component that cannot survive alone. Together, they form one of the longest organisms in the sea, drifting through the mesopelagic zone, rarely seen, almost never photographed intact, and only recently understood to be a single, connected entity. These invertebrates, soft-bodied and delicate, challenge every assumption we have about size and strength. They don't have bones. They don't have armor. They're made mostly of water held together by thin membranes and the gentle pressure of the deep. And yet, they are giants. They are hunters. They are survivors. They fill the ocean with their strange, translucent bodies, and most of us will never see them, never know. They're there drifting just beyond the reach of light. Colossal arthropods of the deep. Now let's turn our attention to something with legs. Many legs. Long, spindly, armored legs that stretch across the seafloor like the limbs of some mechanical creature from another world. The Japanese spider crab, Macrochera caempheri, holds the record for the largest leg span of any arthropod on Earth. From claw tip to claw tip, fully grown individuals can measure up to 3.7 meters, and some reports suggest specimens reaching close to 4 meters. That's 12 to 13 feet. Imagine standing with your arms stretched wide, and then imagine something with limbs that reach twice as far. The body of the Japanese spider crab, called the carapace, is actually quite modest compared to those legs. It's usually around 30 to 40 centimeters wide, roughly the size of a large dinner plate. But the legs, those impossibly long legs, extend outward in all directions, giving the crab an eerie alien appearance that has captivated scientists and the public alike. Each leg is thin, delicate-looking, covered in bumps and spines, and tipped with small claws that the crab uses to pull itself along the rocky bottom of the ocean. The proportions are so unusual that when you first see a Japanese spider crab, your brain struggles to make sense of it. The body seems too small for those legs. The legs seem too thin to support any weight. And yet these crabs can weigh up to 20 kilograms, with most of that mass concentrated in the body, and the thick parts of the legs nearest the carapace. The outer portions of the legs are almost skeletal, built for reach rather than strength, designed to probe crevices and explore terrain without exposing the vulnerable body to predators. These crabs live at depths between 50 and 600 meters, usually around 150 to 300 meters, where the water is cold and dark. They are slow-moving scavengers feeding on dead fish, shellfish, algae, and plant material. They use their claws to tear apart food, bringing it piece by piece to their mouths with deliberate, almost meditative movements. Despite their fearsome appearance, they are gentle creatures. In aquariums, they've been observed moving carefully, almost delicately, as though aware of their own size and the fragility of their environment. These crabs live at depths between 50 and 600 meters, usually around 150 to 300 meters where the water is cold and dark. They are slow-moving scavengers feeding on dead fish, shellfish, algae, and plant material. They use their claws to tear apart food, and despite their fearsome appearance, they are gentle creatures. In aquariums, they've been observed moving carefully, almost delicately, as though aware of their own size. Japanese spider crabs can live for up to 100 years, and they grow throughout their lives following a pattern called indeterminate growth. The largest individuals are often the oldest, their shells encrusted with barnacles, algae, and other hitchhikers that have settled there over decades of slow wandering across the seafloor. When they molt, shedding their old exoskeleton to grow a new, larger one, they are vulnerable and exposed. Soft-bodied and defenseless, exposed to any predator that might find them. But once the new shell hardens, they return to their slow, patient wandering across the seafloor, adding another layer to their already considerable size. In Japan, these crabs are considered a delicacy, though overfishing has led to conservation measures. They gather in large groups during mating season, sometimes dozens of them clustered together in shallower water. For divers, seeing a group of these enormous crabs moving in unison is both awe-inspiring and unsettling. They look like something from the deep past, like creatures that should have gone extinct with the trilobites. Next, let's meet another giant of the deep, the giant isopod, Bathynomus giganteus. Most people, if they know isopods at all, think of tiny pillbugs, the little grey creatures that curl into balls when disturbed. But the giant isopod is not tiny. It can grow up to 50 centimeters long. That's nearly 20 inches, as large as a small cat. Giant isopods live on the ocean floor, usually between 200 and 2,000 meters deep, though they have been found even deeper. They are scavengers feeding on dead whales, fish, squid, anything that sinks from above. They have powerful jaws and can tear through tough skin and muscle with ease. But food is rare in the abyss, so giant isopods have evolved to survive long periods without eating. Some individuals in captivity have gone over 5 years without food and survived. Their bodies are heavily armored, segmented like a medieval knight's suit, with overlapping plates that protect them from predators. They have large compound eyes that can detect even the faintest light, and they move slowly across the bottom on 14 legs, searching for carrion. When threatened, they can curl into a ball just like their terrestrial relatives, protecting their softer underside. Despite their size, giant isopods are rarely seen. They live too deep for most casual divers, and they're not commercially valuable, so fishermen don't target them. Occasionally, one is caught in a deep-sea trawl net, and when it is the crew, is often shocked by its size. Photos spread online, and people marvel at the idea of a pillbug as big as a football. Then there are the giant amphipods, crustaceans related to shrimp, that can grow to over 30 centimeters in the deepest trenches. One species found in the Mariana Trench at depths exceeding 7,000 meters was nicknamed a supergiant because of its extraordinary size. In the surface, ocean amphipods are usually no more than a few centimeters long. But in the Hadal zone, the deepest parts of the ocean, they grow massive. Why scientists believe it's a phenomenon called Abyssal Gigantism, which we'll explore more deeply later. But the short version is this cold water, high pressure, and low food availability all favor larger body sizes. Larger animals have slower metabolisms, which means they need less food. They also store energy more efficiently and live longer, giving them more time to reproduce. Let's also visit the deep-sea spider crabs, not to be confused with the Japanese spider crab, which belong to a different family. These crabs, sometimes called pycnogonids or sea spiders, have leg spans that can exceed 70 centimeters. They look like spiders with tiny bodies and absurdly long, thin legs, but they're not true spiders. They're marine arthropods in their own unique class. Pycnogonids move slowly across the seafloor, often in complete darkness, feeding on soft corals, anemones, and sponges. Their legs are so long and their bodies so small that most of their internal organs, including parts of their digestive system, extend into the legs themselves. It's as though they're all limbs, with just enough body to connect everything. When you see a photo of a deep-sea pycnogonid, it often looks delicate, almost ethereal. But then you see the scale bar and you realize those legs are longer than your forearm. They move like something from a nightmare, jointless and slow, feeling their way across rock and sediment, with legs that seem to bend in impossible directions. Finally, let's meet the enormous deep-sea lobsters. While not as famous as their shallow water cousins, some deep-sea lobster species grow far larger. The Norwegian lobster, for instance, isn't particularly deep, but species in the family Nephropodidae that live below 1,000 meters can reach sizes that would dwarf anything you'd find in a restaurant tank. These lobsters are scavengers and predators using powerful claws to crack open shells and tear apart prey. They're slow-moving but patient, waiting near hydrothermal vents or cold seeps, where food is more abundant. And they live for decades, growing steadily, molting periodically, their exoskeletons building layer by layer into armor that can withstand both predators and pressure. What all of these arthropods have in common is a kind of quiet enormity. They don't move fast. They don't flash with bioluminescence. They simply exist large and patient in environments where being large is an advantage. They remind us that the deep sea is not a place of miniaturization. It's a place where if you live long enough and adapt well enough, you can grow to sizes that would be impossible anywhere else. Cephalopod, giant squid, and octopuses. If there's one deep-sea creature that has captured human imagination more than any other, it's the giant squid. For centuries, sailors told stories of enormous tentacled beasts, rising from the waves, attacking ships, dragging men overboard. These stories were dismissed as myth, as exaggeration, as the fevered imaginings of men who'd been at sea too long. But they weren't entirely wrong. The giant squid Architeuthis dux is real, and it is enormous. The largest scientifically verified specimen measured approximately 13 meters from the tip of its mantle to the end of its longest tentacles. That's nearly 43 feet, longer than most school buses, heavier than a grand piano. Most of that length comes from the two feeding tentacles, which can extend twice the length of the squid's body to snatch prey from a distance. The mantle, the main body, is usually around 2 meters long, and the 8 arms add another few meters. Together, they form a creature of astonishing proportions, with eyes the size of dinner plates, a beak strong enough to slice through steel cable, and suckers lined with sharp, serrated rings. Giant squid live in deep water, usually between 300 and 1,000 meters, though they've been detected even deeper. They are active predators hunting fish and smaller squid in the twilight zone, where only the faintest sunlight penetrates. They use their enormous eyes, the largest in the animal kingdom, to detect the silhouettes of prey or predators against the faint glow above. For decades, scientists tried to capture footage of a living giant squid. Expeditions searched the ocean dangling bait, deploying cameras following sperm whales who hunt them. Finally, in 2004, researchers in Japan captured the first images of a live Architeuthis attacking bait. In 2012, they filmed one in its natural habitat for the first time, a breakthrough moment in marine biology. The footage revealed something surprising. The squid was not a slow, drifting scavenger. It was fast, aggressive, and powerful. It lunged at the bait with its tentacles wrapping them around the target, then pulled it toward its beak. Its body pulsed with color changes, perhaps a form of communication or camouflage. It was a hunter, graceful and deadly, moving through water that would crush an unprepared human in seconds. But the giant squid is not the largest squid. That title belongs to the colossal squid, Mesonicoteuthis hamiltoni, a species so rare that only a handful of specimens have ever been found. The colossal squid is shorter in length, measuring around 12 to 14 meters, but it's far heavier. Some estimates place its weight at over 495 kilograms, nearly half a ton. The colossal squid has several features that set it apart. Its tentacles are equipped with rotating hooks in addition to suckers, allowing it to grip prey more securely. Its eyes are even larger than those of the giant squid, adapted to the near-total darkness of the Southern Ocean, where it lives at depths exceeding 1,000 meters. And it's believed to be an ambush predator, hanging motionless in the water, waiting for prey to pass within range before striking. Sperm whales hunt colossal squid, and whales caught by fishermen often have circular scars on their heads, marks left by the squid's sucker hooks during battles in the deep. These scars provide some of the only direct evidence of encounters between the two species, battles that happen in darkness under immense pressure far beyond human observation. Let's also meet the giant Pacific octopus Enteroctopus dofleini, the largest octopus species in the world. While not as deep-dwelling as some of the creatures we've discussed, this octopus can grow to astonishing sizes, with an arm span exceeding 5 meters and weights of up to 50 kilograms. That's over 16 feet and 110 pounds. Big enough to envelop a person if it wanted to. The giant Pacific octopus is found along the coasts of the North Pacific, usually in rocky dens between 20 and now 500 meters deep. It's an intelligent creature capable of problem-solving, opening jars, recognizing individual humans, and even escaping from aquarium tanks. It hunts crabs, clams, fish, and other mollusks, using its powerful arms to pry open shells and its venomous saliva to paralyze prey. Despite its size, the giant Pacific octopus is shy and reclusive. It spends most of its time hidden in dens, emerging at night to hunt. Divers who encounter them report that they are curious but cautious, reaching out a single arm to touch a camera or mask, then retreating back into the shadows. They live only a few years, dying after reproducing, but in that short time, they grow from tiny hatchlings, smaller than a grain of rice, to giants that dominate their environment. There are also deep-sea octopus species smaller than the giant Pacific, but no less remarkable. The Dumbo octopus, for instance, lives at depths exceeding 4,000 meters and has ear-like fins that make it look almost comical. Some deep-sea octopuses are translucent, their internal organs visible through their skin. Others are bioluminescent, glowing faintly in the dark. And a few species are so strange, so unlike anything we expect, that they challenge our definitions of what an octopus should be. Cephalopods as a group represent some of the ocean's most successful predators. They've been around for hundreds of millions of years, adapting to nearly every marine environment. They have complex nervous systems, sophisticated camouflage, and behaviors that suggest intelligence far beyond what we once believed possible. And in the deep, where pressure and darkness rule, they've grown to sizes that seem almost impossible. Squid longer than buses. octopuses with arms that could wrap around a small car. Creatures that hunt in total darkness using senses we barely understand in a world we've only just begun to explore. They remind us that the ocean is not empty. It's not quiet. It's full of life, and some of that life is so large, so strange, and so powerful that it still feels like myth, even when we have the photographs to prove it's real. Massive fish of the twilight and abyss. Now let's drift deeper and meet the fish. Not the small, darting shapes you might imagine, but massive, slow-moving creatures that have adapted to life in the twilight zone and beyond. Fish so large they seem to bend the rules of what should be possible in the deep. Let's begin with the Oarfish regalicus glesson, often called the king of herrings, or the ribbonfish. This is the longest bony fish in the world, with confirmed specimens reaching lengths of 7 to 8 meters, and some reports suggesting individuals as long as 11 meters. That's 36 feet, as long as a full-size school bus. And yet, despite their length, oarfish are remarkably thin, often no more than 20 centimeters wide, giving them a ribbon-like appearance that seems impossible, as though someone stretched a normal fish until it became a living streamer. Oarfish live in the mesopelagic zone, usually between 200 and 1,000 meters deep, though they occasionally venture into shallower water, especially when sick or dying. They swim vertically, their bodies undulating like living ribbons, moving through the water column with a grace that seems almost impossible for something so long. They have no scales, no teeth, and their bodies are covered in a silvery sheen that catches what little light filters down from above. Along their entire dorsal surface runs a bright red fin, rippling like a flame, earning them names like sea dragon in ancient texts. For centuries, oarfish were the source of sea serpent legends. When they washed ashore dead or dying, people would find these enormous snake-like creatures with red dorsal fins running the length of their bodies and imagine them as dragons from the deep. Even today, when one beaches itself, it becomes local news. Crowds gather, photographs are taken, posted online, shared thousands of times. Scientists rush to measure and study the specimen before it decomposes in the sun. What causes them to beach? No one knows for certain. Some researchers believe it's related to changes in water temperature or pressure. Others think disease or parasites drive them to the surface. A few specimens have been found with unusual deep-sea parasites, suggesting they might have been suffering when they came ashore. But the mystery remains, and every beached oarfish adds another data point to a puzzle we're still trying to solve. Oarfish are rarely seen alive in their natural habitat. They appear to feed on small crustaceans, plankton, and fish larvae, filtering them from the water as they swim. They are solitary, slow-moving, and fragile. When caught in nets, they often die from the stress and pressure changes. But when filmed underwater by remotely operated vehicles, they are mesmerizing, their long bodies moving in slow waves, their dorsal fins rippling like flames in the current, their silver skin catching and reflecting the lights of the submersible as they drift past, almost as if they're performing Dancing in the Deep for an audience of machines. Next, let's visit the Greenland shark, Somniosus microcephalus, one of the largest and longest-lived vertebrates on Earth. Greenland sharks can grow up to 7 meters long and weigh over a ton. They live in the cold, deep waters of the North Atlantic and Arctic Oceans, usually between 200 and 2,200 meters deep, though they have been found at depths exceeding 2,700 meters, where the pressure would crush most other large predators. What makes the Greenland shark truly remarkable, though, is its lifespan. Radiocarbon dating of eye lens nuclei has revealed that some individuals may live for 400 years or more, possibly as long as 512 years, based on the most recent estimates. That means a Greenland shark alive today could have been born before the founding of the United States before the Industrial Revolution, even before Shakespeare wrote his plays. Imagine a creature swimming through Arctic waters, when wooden sailing ships first explored these regions, still swimming today, still hunting, still growing unchanged and patient. Greenland sharks are slow swimmers moving at speeds of less than 1 kilometer per hour, barely faster than a human walking. They don't chase prey, they wait, they ambush, they hunt seals, fish, and carrion. And their flesh is toxic when fresh, containing high levels of trimethylamine oxide and other compounds that must be broken down before the meat is safe to eat. In Iceland, traditional preparation involves burying the meat for months, allowing it to ferment and become safe through a process called hakal. Their eyes are often parasitized by small copepods called omatocoita elongata, tiny crustaceans that hang from the cornea like grotesque ornaments, possibly impairing their vision. But Greenland sharks don't seem to rely much on sight anyway. They hunt in near-total darkness using smell and vibration to detect prey. Their nostrils are large and sensitive, capable of detecting the faintest chemical traces in the water. Their lateral line system picks up pressure waves from swimming fish or the struggles of injured seals. These sharks grow slowly, adding only about 1 centimeter per year. By the time they reach sexual maturity, they may already be 150 years old. They move through icy waters like ghosts, slow and patient scavenging on whale carcasses that sink to the bottom, catching sleeping fish and outliving nearly everything around them. They are the ancient elders of the Arctic witnesses to centuries of change, still gliding through the dark as they have for longer than most countries have existed. Let's also meet the ocean sunfish. Mola mola, a creature so strange it hardly seems real. The ocean sunfish is the heaviest bony fish in the world, with individuals weighing up to 2,300 kilograms. That's over 5,000 pounds. As heavy as a small car. Heavier than most adult great white sharks. And yet they feed almost exclusively on jellyfish, one of the ocean's least nutritious foods. They're not particularly long, usually around 3 meters, but they're tall and round-shaped, almost like a giant disc with fins. Their bodies are compressed laterally, as though they've been squeezed between 2 enormous hands, giving them a profile unlike any other fish. They have no tail fin in the traditional sense. Instead, their dorsal and anal fins evolved into a structure called a clavus, a rounded, flattened rudder that helps them steer as they swim. Ocean sunfish live in the open ocean, often near the surface, but they make deep dives to feed on jellyfish, squid, and small fish at depths exceeding 600 meters. They have tiny mouths relative to their body size and fused teeth that form a beak-like structure, which they use to bite through the tough bells of jellyfish. Despite their massive size, they are gentle, slow-moving creatures, often seen basking at the surface, lying on their sides to warm themselves in the sun. When you see a photo of an ocean sunfish, it's difficult to grasp their scale. They look odd, almost comical with their large eyes and seemingly incomplete body. But when divers encounter them underwater, the sheer mass becomes apparent. A sunfish can be taller than a person, wider than a couch, and so heavy that it seems to move through the water not by swimming, but by sheer inertia. They are one of the most fecund vertebrates, with females capable of producing up to 300 million eggs in a single spawning more than any other known vertebrate. Now let's descend even deeper and meet the gulper eel, Europharynx peleconoids, a fish that looks more like a living sock than anything else. The gulper eel has an enormous mouth, far larger than its body, which it can expand to swallow prey bigger than itself. Its body is thin, almost thread-like, tapering to a long, whip-like tail, tipped with a bioluminescent organ that glows pink or red, possibly to lure prey or attract mates in the darkness. Gulper eels live at depths between 500 and 3,000 meters, drifting through the water with their mouths open, waiting for prey to swim inside. When they catch something, their throat expands like a balloon, and they slowly digest their meal over days or even weeks, their stomachs stretching to accommodate food that would seem impossibly large for such a thin-bodied fish. They can grow up to 1 meter long, though most of that length is tail. They look fragile, almost translucent when filmed, but they're perfectly adapted to life in the abyss, where food is scarce and every meal counts. Scientists believe gulper eels might also eat marine snow and organic detritus, supplementing their diet when larger prey is unavailable. Their large mouths might act as filters, scooping up everything in their path and sorting out what's edible once it's inside. It's a strategy of patience, of waiting in the dark with mouth agape, trusting that eventually something will wander in. Let's also visit the giant groupers, particularly the Atlantic Goliath grouper, Epinephelus itajara, which can grow up to 2.5 meters long and weigh over 360 kilograms. While not exclusively deep-sea dwellers, large individuals are often found in deeper water, lurking in caves, wrecks, and rocky outcrops, ambushing prey with explosive strikes. They have enormous mouths and can swallow fish nearly half their own size in a single gulp, creating such powerful suction that smaller fish nearby are pulled toward them even if they're trying to escape. Goliath groupers are slow to mature and long-lived, sometimes reaching ages of 40 years or more. They were heavily overfished in the past, with populations declining sharply due to their large size, accessibility, and the fact that they aggregate in predictable locations during spawning season, making them easy targets for commercial fishermen. Conservation efforts have helped them recover in some areas, particularly in Florida waters, where fishing bans have been in place for decades. When divers encounter a large Goliath grouper, the fish often shows curiosity, swimming close, opening and closing its mouth to create a booming sound that reverberates through the water and can be felt in the chest. It's a reminder that even in the ocean size commands respect. These fish are not aggressive toward humans, but they are powerful, territorial, and capable of defending themselves if threatened. Finally, let's meet the six-gill shark, Hexanchus griseus, one of the most primitive sharks alive today. A living fossil that has remained relatively unchanged for millions of years. Six-gill sharks can grow up to 5.5 meters long and are found in deep water around the world, usually between 200 and 2,500 meters. They are slow-moving, bottom-dwelling predators feeding on fish-rays, squid, and even other sharks, including smaller members of their own species. What makes six-gill sharks remarkable is their ancient lineage. They've remained relatively unchanged for millions of years, with 6 gill slits instead of the 5 found in most modern sharks. They have a single dorsal fin positioned far back on their bodies, a broad head, flat snout, and small fluorescent green eyes that glow faintly when light hits them in certain ways, an adaptation that may help them see in near total darkness. When submarines and ROVs encounter them in the deep, they move with a lazy, undulating motion, their bodies swaying side to side. Powerful and patient like ancient predators from a time before time. They hunt by scent and vibration, detecting the electrical fields of prey using specialized organs called ampullae of Lorenzini. They can detect a single drop of blood from kilometers away, following the chemical trail through the darkness until they find their prey. Six-gill sharks are oviviparous, meaning the females carry eggs inside their bodies until they hatch, then give birth to live young. Litters can contain up to 100 pups, though most contain fewer. The young are born fully formed and independent, immediately swimming off into the deep to begin their own lives. They grow slowly, and large individuals may be several decades old, having survived in the deep for longer than most humans have been alive. These fish, massive and mysterious, remind us that the deep sea is not a place devoid of vertebrates. It's home to some of the largest, oldest and strangest fish on Earth, creatures that have adapted to darkness, pressure and cold in ways that challenge everything we thought we knew about fish biology. They move slowly livelong and grow to sizes that seem impossible in such a food-scarce environment. But they've found ways to thrive, to survive, to dominate their niches in the endless night of the abyss. Patient hunters in a world where patience is rewarded and haste means death. Unexpected giants, echinoderms, mollusks, and other surprises. Let's turn now to creatures you might never expect to be large. Animals we usually imagine as small, delicate, or decorative. Things we associate with tide pools and aquariums with gentle touches and colorful patterns. But in the deep sea, even the humblest forms of life can grow to extraordinary dimensions, transforming from familiar shapes into something altogether more imposing. Start with sea cucumbers, those soft, tubular creatures that look like underwater vegetables. If you've seen them in shallow water, you probably remember them as hand-sized, maybe 20 centimeters long, lying on the sand or tucked into crevices. But in the abyss, some species grow enormous. The deep-sea sea cucumber, Synapta maculata, has been recorded at lengths exceeding 1 meter, and other species in the hadal zones of the deepest trenches, such as Elpidiidae. Family members can reach even greater sizes with bodies thick as human limbs, and lengths approaching 2 meters in some documented cases. These giant sea cucumbers move slowly across the seafloor, filtering sediment through their bodies and extracting organic matter with remarkable efficiency. They have soft, flexible bodies with no rigid structure, and they can expand or contract, depending on water pressure and feeding conditions. Their skin is leathery but delicate, often covered in tubercles bumps, or specialized tube feet that help them grip the seafloor as they move. When disturbed, some species can expel their internal organs as a defense mechanism, a process called evisceration. The organs are ejected through the mouth or anus, distracting predators with a tangle of sticky, sometimes toxic tissue, while the sea cucumber escapes. Remarkably, they can regenerate these organs over time, a process that takes months, but demonstrates an extraordinary capacity for survival and healing. Why do they grow so large? One reason is the slow pace of life in the abyss. With cold water and low metabolism, growth happens gradually, and individuals can live for decades, even centuries, accumulating size over time. Larger bodies also mean larger reserves of energy, which is crucial in an environment where meals are unpredictable. A giant sea cucumber can survive months without feeding, living off stored resources in its tissues. They are detritivores, the janitors of the deep, consuming dead material and recycling nutrients back into the ecosystem. Without them, organic matter would accumulate on the seafloor, locked away from the food web. They are the cleanup crew, the recyclers performing essential work that keeps the deep sea ecosystem functioning, even if no one is watching. Now let's visit the starfish, or more properly, sea stars. In tide pools and shallow reefs, sea stars are usually no bigger than a dinner plate, but in deep water, some species grow massive. The sunflower sea star Pycnopodia heliantoides can have an arm span exceeding 1 meter, with up to 24 arms radiating from a central disc. It's the largest sea star in the world, and while it's typically found in shallower Pacific waters, larger individuals often inhabit deeper zones, where they have more space to grow and less competition for food. Sunflower sea stars are active predators, moving faster than most sea stars, sometimes covering several meters per minute, which is remarkable for an echinoderm. They hunt sea urchins, clams, snails, and even other sea stars using their tube feet to pry open shells and avert their stomachs directly onto prey to digest it externally, a process that's both efficient and gruesome when you think about it. They're covered in thousands of tiny tube feet, each one tipped with a sucker, giving them a soft, almost fuzzy appearance when you look closely. These sea stars have been devastated in recent years by sea star wasting disease, a mysterious condition that causes tissue decay lesions and death within days. Populations have collapsed in many areas along the Pacific coast, with some regions seeing 90% or more of their sunflower stars disappear. Scientists are still working to understand the causes, whether it's viral, bacterial, or linked to warming waters and other environmental stresses. Recovery is slow, and the loss of these massive predators has cascading effects on the ecosystems they once dominated. Let's also meet the giant clams, particularly Tridacna gigas, which can grow to over 1.2 meters across and weigh more than 200 kilograms. That's heavier than most adult humans. While giant clams are typically found in shallow tropical waters, they represent the upper limits of bivalve size and demonstrate what's possible when a mollusk has access to light, nutrients, and time. They live for over 100 years, slowly filtering water and farming photosynthetic algae in their tissues, a partnership similar to corals, where both organisms benefit from the exchange of nutrients and gases. Deep-sea clams, while not as large as Tridacna, can still reach surprising sizes. Some species found near hydrothermal vents and cold seeps grow to 30 centimeters or more with thick, heavy shells that protect them from predators and the harsh chemical environment. They live in dense clusters, sometimes thousands of individuals, packed together, filtering bacteria and organic particles from the water with specialized gills. Some species host chemosynthetic bacteria inside their tissues, similar to tube worms, allowing them to thrive in environments where photosynthesis is impossible. These deep-sea clams can survive for decades in environments that would be toxic to most other life, and they grow slowly, but steadily, adding layers to their shells year after year. When scientists carbon date the shells, they often find individuals that are 50, 100, even 200 years old, silent witnesses to centuries of change in the deep. Then there are the deep-sea sponges, ancient organisms that have existed for over 600 million years, predating most other animal life on Earth. Some glass sponges, like those found in the deep waters off Japan, Canada, and Antarctica, can grow to over 2 meters tall and live for thousands of years. Yes, thousands. One specimen of the glass sponge Monohaphis chuni was estimated to be over 11,000 years old, making it one of the longest-lived organisms on Earth. Older than recorded human civilization, older than agriculture, older than the first cities. These sponges build their skeletons out of silica, forming delicate, intricate structures that look like glass sculptures with lattices and chambers so fine they resemble the work of a master artist. They filter enormous quantities of water, extracting bacteria and organic particles with specialized cells called choanocytes. They grow so slowly that they can take centuries to add just a few centimeters, but over millennia, they can form structures the size of small buildings. When deep-sea trawlers damage sponge beds, the recovery time is measured not in years, but in millennia. A trawl net that scrapes across the seafloor can destroy sponges that were alive when the last ice age ended. They are ancient, fragile, and irreplaceable, and their loss represents not just the death of an organism, but the erasure of thousands of years of history. Let's visit the giant sea urchins as well. While most sea urchins are fist-sized, some deep-sea species can grow to diameters exceeding 30 centimeters, with spines adding even more to their overall size. The pencil urchin, found in deeper waters of the Indo-Pacific, has thick, blunt spines that can measure 10 centimeters or longer, giving it a formidable appearance despite its herbivorous diet. These urchins move slowly across the seafloor, grazing on detritus, algae, and bacterial mats. Their spines are often long and thin, designed to keep predators at a distance, and some species have venomous spines that can deliver painful stings. They can live for decades, growing steadily in the cold, stable conditions of the deep, their hard calcite shells adding layer upon layer, like tree rings, recording their growth over years and decades. There's also the bootlace worm Lineus longissimus, one of the longest animals on Earth. While not a deep-sea specialist, this ribbon worm can reach lengths exceeding 30 meters, though its body is only a few millimeters thick, making it look like a living rope or cable. It lives in shallow waters around the British Isles, hiding in crevices and stretching its body across rock surfaces to hunt for prey. When extended, it looks like a living rope, coiled and tangled, almost impossible to measure accurately because it never fully stretches out. Ribbon worms are carnivorous, hunting small invertebrates with a specialized proboscis that shoots out from their bodies like a harpoon, capturing prey and pulling it back to the mouth. The bootlace worm is so long that when coiled up, it can form a mass the size of a human head, pulsing gently as it waits for prey to pass nearby. And finally, let's meet the colonial organisms, creatures that blur the line between individual and community. The Portuguese man-o'-war, for instance, is not a single animal, but a colony of specialized polyps working together, each performing a different function: floating, stinging, feeding, reproducing. Its tentacles can trail over 30 meters behind its floating bell, and while it's typically found at the surface, it represents the incredible sizes that colonial organisms can achieve when each member contributes to the whole. Deep-sea colonial tunicates related to sea squirts can form chains and clusters, several meters long, drifting through the water column and filtering plankton with coordinated movements. Each individual, called a zooid, is tiny, but together they form structures that rival the size of large fish. They pulse and contract in unison, moving slowly through the dark, glowing faintly with bioluminescence that pulses in waves along their bodies. Some colonial salps, barrel-shaped tunicates that link together in long chains, can form structures dozens of meters long, spiraling through the water like living necklaces. They filter phytoplankton and organic particles with remarkable efficiency, and when they die, they sink rapidly to the seafloor, carrying carbon and nutrients down with them, playing a crucial role in what scientists call the biological pump, the process by which carbon is transported from the surface to the deep ocean. These unexpected giants, soft-bodied and ancient, remind us that size in the ocean is not limited to the fierce or the fast. Some of the largest organisms are the slowest, the gentlest, the most patient. They filter, they wait, they grow, and they endure, quietly shaping the ecosystems around them in ways we're only beginning to understand. They are the quiet giants, the overlooked enormities, the creatures we walk past in tide pools, without realizing that somewhere deeper and darker, their relatives have grown to sizes that would make us step back in awe. Deep-diving mammals and their prey. Now let's return to the surface briefly to meet the mammals who descend into the abyss to hunt the giants we've been discussing. Because some of the most remarkable deep-sea creatures aren't the ones who live there permanently, but the ones who visit holding their breath, defying pressure and hunting in total darkness. The sperm whale Physeter macrocephalus is the largest toothed predator on Earth, and it's built for the deep. Male sperm whales can grow up to 18 meters long and weigh over 50 tons. Their massive block-shaped heads contain the largest brain of any animal, as well as the spermaceti organ, a waxy substance that may help with buoyancy and echolocation. Sperm whales hunt deep, deeper than almost any other mammal. They regularly dive to depths of 1,000 meters, and some dives have been recorded at over 2,000 meters, staying underwater for up to 90 minutes. At those depths, the pressure is crushing the darkness absolute and the cold penetrating. But the sperm whale is hunting using echolocation clicks so loud they can stun prey. What are they hunting? Giant squid, colossal squid, deep sea fish, anything large enough to satisfy their enormous appetite. A single sperm whale can consume over a ton of food per day, and much of that comes from the twilight zone and below. When researchers examine the stomachs of dead sperm whales, they often find squid beaks, some from species never seen alive, including giant and colossal squid. The relationship between sperm whales and giant squid is one of the ocean's great mysteries. We've never witnessed a hunt, we've never seen the battle, but we know it happens because of the scars. Sperm whales are often covered in circular scars from squid suckers, evidence of struggles in the deep. Some whales have scars around their mouths, their eyes, their bodies, suggesting that the squid do not go quietly. Imagine that encounter. A sperm whale descending through layers of darkness, clicking steadily, listening for echoes. It detects movement, a large shape hovering in the water. It accelerates, mouth open, and strikes. The squid fights back, tentacles wrapping around the whale's head suckers, gripping hooks, digging in. The whale shakes, thrashes, and eventually overpowers its prey, swallowing it whole. Then it turns, rises slowly through the pressure layers, and breaks the surface, breathing hard, victorious. Let's also meet the beaked whales, a group of over 20 species that are among the most mysterious mammals on Earth. Beaked whales are deep divers, with some species regularly descending to depths exceeding 2,000 meters. The Cuvier's beaked whale holds the record for the deepest dive by a mammal, reaching 292 meters, nearly 3 kilometers straight down, and staying underwater for over 2 hours. Beaked whales have small teeth or no functional teeth at all, and they hunt using suction feeding, vacuuming up squid and deep-sea fish from the ocean floor. They are elusive, spending most of their time in deep water, surfacing only briefly to breathe. Many species are known only from a handful of sightings or stranded individuals, and some have never been photographed alive in the wild. Why do they dive so deep? Because that's where the food is. The mesopelagic and bathipelagic zones are full of squidfish and crustaceans, and beaked whales have evolved to exploit this resource. They have slow metabolisms, allowing them to conserve oxygen. Their blood and muscles are packed with myoglobin, which stores oxygen more efficiently than in most mammals, and their bodies are built to withstand pressure that would collapse human lungs. Then there are the elephant seals, particularly the southern elephant seal, Mirunga leonina, the largest seal in the world. Male southern elephant seals can weigh over 4,000 kilograms and grow to lengths of 6 meters. They spend months at sea, diving repeatedly to depths of 400 to 1,000 meters, sometimes deeper, hunting fish and squid. Elephant seals dive almost continuously while at sea, with dives lasting 20 to 30 minutes on average. They ascend only long enough to take a few breaths, then plunge back down. Over the course of several months, a single seal might make thousands of dives, traveling hundreds or thousands of kilometers across the open ocean, all while fasting on shore during breeding season. Their prey includes deep-sea fish, squid, and rays, and they hunt by detecting bioluminescent flashes or using their sensitive whiskers to sense vibrations in the water. They are adapted to survive in cold, dark water with thick blubber for insulation and the ability to slow their heart rates to just a few beats per minute during dives. When an elephant seal surfaces after a deep dive, it breathes rapidly for a minute or two, then dives again. It's a rhythm of life repeated over and over, driven by hunger and the need to store energy for the breeding season. They are among the deepest diving, air-breathing animals on Earth, exploring a world most of us will never see. These mammals, warm-blooded and air-breathing, cross the boundary between surface and abyss with remarkable efficiency. They remind us that the deep sea is not isolated. It's connected to the surface world through migration, through hunting, through the movement of energy and nutrients. Whales bring nitrogen from the deep to the surface in their feces, fertilizing phytoplankton. Seals carry energy from the abyss to coastal breeding grounds, and in doing so, they link two worlds that might otherwise never touch. The battles that take place in the deep between whales and squid, between seals and fish, are invisible to us. But they shape the ocean's ecology, its food webs, its cycles of life and death. They remind us that even in the darkest places, life is not still. It's hunting, fighting, surviving, and thriving. The science behind deep-sea gigantism. So why are deep-sea creatures so large? Why does a pill bug grow to the size of a football in the abyss? Why do squid reach lengths that would be impossible in shallow water? Why do tube worms tower 3 meters tall when their relatives in other environments are finger length? Why does the deep sea seem to favor giants while other extreme environments often favor miniaturization? The answer lies in a phenomenon known as deep-sea gigantism. Sometimes called abyssal gigantism, a pattern observed across multiple groups of animals living in the deep ocean. It's not universal, there are plenty of small deep-sea creatures, but the trend is clear enough that scientists have been studying it for over a century, trying to understand the mechanisms that drive certain species toward unprecedented size. Scientists have proposed several explanations, and the truth likely involves a complex combination of factors working together in ways that vary by species, by depth, and by region. Let's explore each of these factors, carefully building an understanding of how the deep sea creates its giants. First, there's temperature, perhaps the most straightforward factor. The deep sea is cold, typically between 1 and 4 degrees Celsius, and cold water affects metabolism in profound ways. In cold environments, chemical reactions slow down. Enzymes work less efficiently. Cells divide more slowly. Energy is used more conservatively. This means that animals in the deep can afford to have slower metabolisms, which in turn allows them to grow larger without needing proportionally more food to maintain their body functions. This is related to a principle known as Kleiber's law, which describes how metabolic rate scales with body size in a fascinating, non-linear way. Larger animals have lower mass-specific metabolic rates, meaning they need less food per kilogram of body weight than smaller animals. A blue whale, for instance, needs far less food per kilogram than a mouse does, even though the whale is thousands of times larger. In a food-scarce environment like the deep sea, being large is an advantage because you can survive longer between meals. Your energy reserves last longer, and you can go months or even years without feeding if necessary. But food scarcity itself is another factor, and this is where things get interesting because it seems counterintuitive. You'd think that in an environment with little food, animals would evolve to be small to minimize their energy needs. But in the deep sea, the opposite often happens. Why? In the deep sea, food is unpredictable. Organic material sinks from the surface in the form of marine snow. Tiny particles of dead plankton, fecal pellets, and organic detritus that drift downward like underwater snowflakes. Occasionally, larger food sources arrive: dead fish, squid, jellyfish. Even whale falls, massive carcasses that sink to the bottom and feed entire communities for years. But these arrivals are sporadic, unpredictable, separated by long periods of scarcity. Larger animals can store more energy in the form of fat or other reserves. A giant isopod, for instance, can go years without food because it has a large body that stores energy efficiently and a slow metabolism that uses that energy sparingly. Its body is like a biological battery charged by occasional large meals and discharged slowly over time. A smaller animal with a faster metabolism would starve much sooner, unable to bridge the gaps between food falls. There's also something called the optimal foraging size hypothesis, which suggests that in environments where food comes in large, infrequent packages, being large enough to consume and store substantial amounts of energy becomes advantageous. A giant squid that catches a large fish can feed for days or weeks on that single meal, storing the excess as fat. A smaller squid would need to catch many small prey items, which requires more energy expenditure relative to the gain. Pressure is another factor, though, not in the way you might expect. Deep-sea animals don't grow large because pressure compresses them, quite the opposite. Pressure is immense at depth. At 2,000 meters, the pressure is about 200 times greater than at sea level. At 4,000 meters, it's 400 times greater. This would crush any air-filled cavity collapse, lungs rupture cells. But deep-sea organisms have evolved ways to cope. Many lack air-filled spaces entirely. Their bodies are filled with water, which is incompressible, so pressure affects them far less than it would affect air-breathing animals. Some deep-sea fish have gelatinous bodies with no swim bladders. Squid have bodies that are mostly water and muscle. Soft-bodied organisms like jellyfish and sea cucumbers are barely affected at all. Interestingly, pressure may actually favor certain body plans. Rigid exoskeletons like those of crustaceans must be built to withstand pressure, and thicker, heavier armor may provide advantages at depth, both for protection against crushing forces and for defense against predators. This might explain why some deep-sea crabs and isopods have such thick, heavy shells compared to their shallow water relatives. There's also the issue of predation, which operates very differently in the deep compared to shallow waters. In shallow water, predators are abundant. Fish, birds, mammals, other invertebrates, all hunting constantly. Being large can make you a target, a slow-moving meal for something higher up the food chain. But in the deep sea, predators are fewer and farther between. Food scarcity affects them too, so their populations are less dense and encounters are rarer. For many species, growing large is a way to avoid predation altogether, simply because there are fewer animals capable of eating something the size of a giant isopod or a Japanese spider crab. Once you reach a certain size, your list of potential predators shrinks dramatically. You become too large to be worth the effort, too dangerous to attack, or too well armored to breach. Oxygen levels may also play a role, though this factor is more complex. Deep water is often rich in dissolved oxygen because it's cold, and cold water holds more oxygen than warm water through simple physical chemistry. This means that even though metabolism is slow and animals move less, they can still get enough oxygen to support larger body sizes, at least in well-oxygenated zones. In areas with low oxygen, such as oxygen minimum zones found at certain depths, gigantism is less common, and animals tend to be smaller or highly specialized. Then there's longevity, one of the most important factors. Many deep-sea animals live for decades or even centuries, and they continue growing throughout their lives, a pattern called indeterminate growth. A Greenland shark that lives for 400 years has 4 centuries to accumulate size. A glass sponge that grows for thousands of years can become enormous simply through the passage of time, adding layer upon layer, year after year, century after century. This long lifespan is itself a product of the deep sea environment. Cold temperatures slow aging processes. Low predation reduces mortality. Stable conditions mean fewer environmental stresses. Together, these factors allow organisms to live much longer than their shallow water relatives, and longer life means more time to grow. Recent research, including studies published in the early 2020s, has added new insights to our understanding of deep-sea gigantism. Some scientists believe that it's also linked to the availability of specific nutrients, particularly calcium and silica, which are more abundant in deep water due to pressure temperature and the dissolution of biological material as it sinks. These minerals allow for the construction of larger shells, skeletons, and support structures. Others have pointed to the lack of light as a factor. In the absence of photosynthesis, deep-sea ecosystems rely entirely on chemosynthesis in vent communities or material from above in most regions. This creates unique food webs where size and efficiency are paramount. Animals that can capture and store energy more effectively have a competitive advantage. Being large means you can afford to wait longer for food travel farther to find it and store more when you finally do. Interestingly, gigantism in the deep sea mirrors patterns seen in other extreme environments. Polar gigantism, for instance, describes the tendency for invertebrates in cold polar waters to grow larger than their temperate relatives. Arctic amphipods, Antarctic sea spiders, and other cold water species often reach sizes far beyond their warm water cousins. The mechanisms are similar: cold water, slow metabolism, high oxygen, and long lifespans. But deep-sea gigantism is not just about individual species. It's about entire ecosystems shaped by depth pressure and the absence of light. It's about evolutionary strategies that prioritize efficiency over speed, endurance over aggression, patience over competition. It's about adapting to a world where the rules are different from anything we experience on land or in shallow water. Consider the giant tube worm colonies at hydrothermal vents. These worms don't compete for food in the traditional sense. They farm bacteria inside their bodies. Bacteria that convert toxic sulfur compounds into usable energy through chemosynthesis. The worms grow tall not to outcompete neighbors for sunlight or nutrients, but to position their plumes in the best water flow, maximizing gas exchange and sulfur uptake. The height is a function of time stability and the unique chemistry of the vent environment. Taller worms have better access to both vent fluids and oxygenated seawater, allowing them to support more bacteria and grow faster. Or consider the giant squid. Their size may be driven by the need to hunt large prey in an environment where small prey is scarce and scattered. A squid that can take down a fish half its own size has access to more calories per hunt, and in the deep, where encounters are rare and energy expenditure must be minimized, that efficiency matters enormously. Larger squid can also travel faster and farther, covering more territory in search of food, and their larger eyes can detect faint bioluminescence from greater distances, giving them a hunting advantage in near total darkness. And then there's the colossal squid, even larger and heavier than the giant squid, living even deeper in the Antarctic waters, where temperatures drop below freezing and the pressure would crush unprotected human bodies. Its size may be an adaptation to hunting in total darkness, where only the largest eyes can gather enough light to see where only the most powerful strikes can overcome. The sluggishness induced by cold, where only the heaviest bodies can dive deep enough to find prey. Deep-sea gigantism also raises fascinating questions about the limits of size. How large can a deep-sea creature grow before physics becomes a limiting factor? How do giant squid maintain nerve function across such long bodies when nerve signals travel at finite speeds? How do giant isopods circulate oxygen when their hearts are so small relative to their mass? How do giant tube worms support 3-meter-tall structures without skeletal support? These are questions scientists are still exploring using advanced technologies. Remotely operated vehicles equipped with high-resolution cameras and sampling tools can now reach depths that were once inaccessible, capturing footage and specimens that reveal the physiology and behavior of these giants in ways never before possible. Autonomous underwater vehicles can map the seafloor and track animal movements over time, revealing patterns of migration, feeding, and reproduction. Genetic sequencing allows scientists to study deep-sea organisms at the molecular level, revealing adaptations invisible to the naked eye. Researchers have discovered that some deep-sea species have unique versions of hemoglobin and myoglobin that function more efficiently in cold, high-pressure environments. Others have specialized proteins that prevent ice crystal formation in their tissues or enzymes that work optimally at near-freezing temperatures. And the discoveries continue. In 2020, the 46-meter siphonophore was found off Australia, challenging our assumptions about the maximum size of gelatinous organisms. In 2021, researchers documented a new species of giant amphipod in the Mariana Trench, adding to our understanding of Hadal Zone biodiversity. In 2023, deep-sea expeditions uncovered sponge fields older than recorded history, some specimens estimated to predate the last ice age by thousands of years. Each finding adds to our understanding of how life adapts to the extreme, and each challenges assumptions about what's possible. Recent studies using metabolic modeling have suggested that deep-sea gigantism may have upper limits determined by oxygen availability, food supply, and the physical constraints of maintaining body tissues at extreme pressure. But we haven't found those limits yet. Every expedition seems to discover something larger, older, or stranger than we expected. The deep sea is often compared to space, an alien environment hostile to human life, largely unexplored. And like space, it reveals that life, given time and opportunity, can evolve in ways we never anticipated. Gigantism is just one of those ways, one strategy among many, but a particularly striking one. It's a testament to the creativity of evolution when freed from the constraints of light, warmth, and shallow water, allowed to experiment in an environment where patience is rewarded and size becomes an advantage rather than a burden. Future discoveries and a gentle closing. We've traveled together through layers of water, through pressure and darkness, through forests of tube worms and spirals of siphonophores. We've met crabs with legs that span cars, squid longer than buses, fish that live for centuries, and mammals that dive into the abyss, holding their breath, hunting giants in the dark. But here's the truth, the quiet, extraordinary truth we've barely begun. More than 95% of the ocean remains unexplored. That's not an exaggeration or a metaphor. It's a fact repeated by marine scientists, oceanographers, and explorers who dedicate their lives to understanding the sea. We've mapped the surface of Mars and the Moon in greater detail than we've mapped our own seafloor. We've sent probes to the outer edges of the solar system, past Jupiter and Saturn, beyond Pluto, into the darkness between stars. But the deepest trenches of Earth remain largely untouched, unmapped, unseen, except by a handful of submersibles and remotely operated vehicles. And that means there are almost certainly creatures down there right now at this very moment that we have never seen, never filmed, never even suspected might exist. Giants we haven't measured, species we haven't named, behaviors we can't imagine, ecosystems functioning in ways we don't yet understand. Consider the discoveries of just the past decade. In 2020, scientists explored the deep waters off Australia and found the longest organism ever recorded, a siphonophore stretching an estimated 46 meters, possibly longer, spiraling through the water in a feeding posture that looked almost alien, almost designed by something other than evolution. That same year, researchers in the Mariana Trench, the deepest place on Earth, filmed a previously unknown species of snailfish at a depth of over 8,000 meters, thriving in conditions that should be inhospitable to vertebrate life, with pressure so intense it would crush steel. In 2021, deep-sea expeditions uncovered vast sponge fields in the Arctic, stretching across the seafloor like underwater forests. Some specimens estimated to be thousands of years old ecosystems that had existed in silence and darkness since before human civilization began, before agriculture, before writing, before the first cities rose from the dust. In 2023, new species of deep-sea corals were discovered growing on seamounts in the Pacific, their branching structures providing habitat for dozens of other organisms, creating islands of life in an otherwise barren landscape. And in 2024, researchers using advanced sonar mapping detected massive, unidentified shapes moving through deep ocean layers. The shapes were too large to be any known species, too fast to be geological features, too consistent across multiple readings to be equipment error. What they were remains a mystery, catalogued and filed away, waiting for future expeditions with better tools, better funding, better luck. Every deep-sea mission returns with new data, new images, new specimens that don't fit existing classifications. Jellyfish with body plans never seen before, symmetries that violate our assumptions about how medusae should be structured. Worms that glow in patterns resembling written language. Bioluminescent displays so complex they hint at communication we don't yet understand. Fish with transparent skulls and tubular eyes that can rotate independently, staring upward into the faint twilight, watching for the silhouettes of prey against the last traces of sunlight. Some scientists believe there may be squid even larger than the colossal squid species that live so deep and so far from human activity that they've never been caught, never been filmed, never even left remains that we've found. The only evidence would be scars on whales, circular marks from suckers larger than any we've documented, or unidentified beaks in whale stomachs that don't match any known species. Or sonar pings that suggest something massive moving through the water column, something with a size signature that doesn't correspond to any catalogued animal. There may be deep-sea sharks we've never seen, living at depths beyond where we've sent cameras, beyond where fishing lines reach beyond the twilight zone and into the midnight zone and deeper still. There may be colonies of organisms forming structures kilometers long, drifting through the hadal zones of the deepest trenches, feeding on chemosynthetic bacteria or organic rain from above. There may be fish that have evolved bioluminescence in colors outside the human visible spectrum, glowing in ultraviolet or infrared invisible to our eyes, but bright as stars to the creatures around them. The deep sea is patient. It does not reveal itself easily. It does not invite exploration. Every expedition is expensive, risky, and limited by technology, time, and funding. Submersibles can only go so deep, stay down for so long, cover so much area. Remotely operated vehicles are tethered to ships dependent on cables that can break or tangle. Autonomous vehicles have limited battery life and can only follow pre-programmed routes. But with each dive, we learn a little more. We adjust our assumptions. We expand the boundaries of what we think is possible. We discover that the ocean is larger, stranger, and more full of life than we ever imagined. And perhaps that's the real lesson tonight, the quiet revelation beneath all these facts and measurements. It's not just that deep-sea creatures are larger than we thought, it's that the ocean itself is larger, stranger, and more alive than we ever imagined. It's not empty, it's not barren, it's buzzing with activity, with growth, with adaptation, all happening in slow motion in the cold and dark, beyond the reach of sunlight. beyond the awareness of most humans who will live and die without ever knowing what drifts beneath the waves. As you drift towards sleep tonight, let your mind wander down into those depths one more time. Imagine yourself weightless, suspended in water so cold it numbs your skin. Imagine the pressure, gentle but firm, pressing from all sides, holding you in place like an invisible hand. Imagine the silence broken only by the faint clicks of distant whales, echolocating through the darkness, the soft pulse of jellyfish contracting as they drift past the slow creak of settling sediment on the sea floor below. And imagine the creatures moving through this world with a patience we can barely comprehend. A 3-meter tube worm swaying in the current from a hydrothermal vent, its red plume blooming like a flower, its white tube anchored to volcanic rock that's still warm from the Earth's molten core. A 46-meter siphonophore spiraling through the dark in that strange UFO-like feeding posture, its body glowing faintly with blue-green light, each zooid performing its function in perfect coordination with thousands of others. Imagine a Japanese spider crab stepping carefully across volcanic rock, on legs that stretch farther than your arms could ever reach, its small body perched atop those impossibly long limbs, like a tiny pilot in a vast machine. Imagine a giant squid hanging motionless in the twilight zone, its enormous eyes scanning for movement, its tentacles coiled and ready, waiting with the patience of something that has all the time in the world, because time moves differently down here, stretched and slowed by the cold and the dark. Imagine an oarfish ribboning through the water, its body undulating like a living wave, its silvery skin catching and reflecting the last traces of sunlight from hundreds of meters above. Imagine a Greenland shark, older than nations, drifting slowly past its eyes clouded with parasites, its mouth filled with rows of sharp, backward-pointing teeth, moving through water so cold it would kill most other living things. But this shark has been doing this for centuries, will keep doing it for centuries more. Imagine an ocean sunfish, massive and round, sinking slowly through layers of temperature and pressure to feed on jellyfish. In the deep, then rising again, patient and unhurried, its massive body, displacing tons of water with each movement. Imagine a giant isopod crawling across the seafloor on 14 legs, its armored body gleaming faintly in the light of a passing submersible, waiting for the next whale fall. The next gift from the surface, knowing it might be months or years, but it can wait because it has evolved to wait, to endure, to survive on almost nothing. These creatures are real. They exist. They're out there right now, this very moment, as you close your eyes, as your breathing slows, as your thoughts begin to drift like marine snow, sinking through the water column. They're living lives we can barely comprehend in a world we've only just begun to explore. And they're large, so much larger than most of us ever realized, larger than the photos suggest, larger than the myth sometimes, because reality doesn't need exaggeration when the truth is already extraordinary. So let this be your final thought as you sink into sleep, as your mind descends through layers of consciousness, the way a submersible descends through layers of water. The ocean is vast. The deep is patient. And somewhere in the darkest waters, in the coldest trenches beneath pressures that would crush, still life continues. Growing, adapting, surviving, thriving. And it's so much bigger than we thought. The tube worms still stand in their forests of white and red. The siphonophores still spiral through the darkness. The spider crabs still walk on their impossible legs. The squid still hunt with eyes the size of dinner plates. And the deep sea continues its slow, patient work, creating giants in the dark, one molecule at a time, 1 year at a time, 1 century at a time. Thank you for joining me tonight on this gentle descent through the abyss. If these quiet explorations bring you peace, if they help you drift towards sleep while learning something new about the world beneath the waves, I'd be grateful if you'd consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It helps others find their way here, one calm soul at a time, one curious mind seeking rest in the company of wonder. But for now, just rest. Let the weight of the day dissolve like salt in seawater. Let your breathing slow and deepen, matching the rhythm of the deep currents, the patient pulse of the ocean. Let your thoughts drift like marine snow, sinking gently through layers of darkness, settling softly on the ocean floor, where no light reaches, but life still finds a way. The giants of the deep are still out there, swimming, hunting, growing, existing in dimensions we're only beginning to understand. And they'll be there tomorrow and the day after and the day after that, waiting patiently in the cold and dark, as they've waited for millions of years, as they'll wait for millions more. Sleep well. Dream of the deep. Dream of creatures longer than buses drifting through water colder than ice. Dream of forests of worms glowing red in the dark. Dream of spirals of light pulsing through the abyss. Dream of ancient sharks older than countries drifting through time. And know that somewhere far below the surface, the ocean continues its slow, patient work, creating, preserving, hiding its giants in the dark. Good night.